So let's talk a little bit about your early life. Where are you from?
I'm from Sandy Springs. I was born in Orlando, but my mom moved here when I was a few months old. And yeah, I grew up in Sandy Springs all the way up until middle school. And then I moved all around Atlanta. I lived in Norcross for half a semester. Then I moved into Lindbergh. Like the Buckhead area, actually, we got really lucky, and my mom married a maintenance man. So we got to live in Buckhead for free. And then I moved to Texas, Dallas, Texas, my last year of high school, and now I'm staying in the Decatur area.
Okay. What was how did moving around affect like your human experience?
I feel like I was really comfortable in Sandy Springs, especially living in the suburbs. My mom kept me very like sheltered. Mm-hmm. And then when we got out into Lindbergh around high school, it was like almost a shell-shocking experience that kept on like just coming harder and harder every year. Like up until maybe I was 17, I started finally going outside and seeing the city by myself because I was going down to Fort Ward and skating with my friends and things like that. So it's kind of nice to be like warmed into the culture, and then kind of just I was just out there by myself at some point.
Mm-hmm. And so when did you start making art? Like at what point did you get into art?
So around 7th grade, they started like the high school. In the beginning of elementary, the middle school teachers came down to our elementary to get us into orchestra. And I'd pick the cello to play. And I think that was like kind of my first traditional like introduction into art. But I was always into like sketching in my notebook and things like that. Like I like those commercials, the drawing commercials and shit and stuff. I ordered one of them and I just traced it though. Like I didn't know, I never really knew the process of getting into art until, I finally like, I don't even know how I really got into art like outside of orchestra. Like I think, I just thought it was cool. Like I think I'd broken some girl's heart doing something like really dumb, like my junior year of high school, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna make a mixtape to apologize to her. And I was like, just, yeah, like, it's so dumb, but
no, it's not
funny
dumb,
enough, like, it's like, it just always keeps, like, giving, like, that basic idea just keeps on giving as much as I grow.
Wait, but did it work? Did you get her back?
Not necessarily. I sent her, like, some stuff I was working on. She was like, she understood the concept, like, but I think, like now I just see her as like we weren't really that close. Like even just the dynamic of the relationship was really funny. Like I just got lucky one day. I don't know if this is too much information, but I was in high school and we somehow like connected off the spam or whatever, off our Instagram spams, and like we shared an intimate moment.
Okay.
And then after that, like she never hit me up, so I was like, damn. And then I ended up like talking to her friend afterwards, and it was just really messy. And like I looked at the situation, like in hindsight, I'm like, damn, I shouldn't have done that. But you live and you learn,
Yeah, you might have wasted a tape, bro.
Yeah,
no,
shit,
I'm kidding. All right, so at what point did you decide that like you wanted to take music serious?
Like I think it aligned with my spiritual awakening. I would say, like, the more I started ingraining myself into music, the more like the world around me started changing, the more I felt more comfortable in being who I was, and like finding out like, hey, I do have something to say, like I do have a voice for a reason, like I am here for a reason, I do have a purpose, And like when you're just like basically just autonomous, like everybody would say, oh, like you're such a smart kid and you have so much potential, but it was like, where do you guys see that? Because I'm not great at school. I'm not great with making friends. I'm not great at really anything. So when I found music, it was like, oh, like this is my thing right here. Like this is like my swag. Like, this is my style. But even like, I think that really came, that sense of like self-purpose came through fashion. Like I would always try to keep up with all the kids that were wearing Jordans, but my whole life, my mom would take me to the thrift store, Goodwill, and I would always look down on it. Like I'd be like, man, I don't know what everybody else is wearing, but I don't want to be wearing this stuff. I don't want to be wearing hand-me-downs. And then eventually it was like, oh, everybody thinks these hand-me-downs are cool. So I'm like, oh, you know what? Maybe there was something in having to make with what I had and not always having the world at my hands and things like that. So yeah.
Do you feel like having to sort of like find your own style through shopping at like secondhand stores or thrift stores? Do you feel like that catapulted you to like stand out?
Yeah, I think it was just the artist I was into too. Like I got into Tyler the Creator, like actually I got into Tyler the Creator really late into my high school career. Like my first concert was the Flower Boy concert, and funny enough I was just a poser. Like I didn't know any of his music prior to, but once I'd seen like how weird he was and like how like outstanding he was in it, like how prideful he was, I was like, whoa, let me check out all this other stuff. And I was like, you know what, all this stuff is like really resonating with what I'm going through right now, so let me like take notes of what he's doing. And then eventually that led into me getting into Frank Ocean, and then that helped me like understand like, oh, like the fact that I'm into psychology and philosophy and all these different things is actually really cool. Like a lot of people think it's cool, so maybe I didn't see that much potential in it just because I was into it, but it was cool to see like a crowd finally form around the things that, like, not even see it form, but see that it was there the whole time. I just had to look a little deeper.
Mm-hmm. So are you making fashion?
Am I making fashion? Yeah, I do make fashion sometimes. I think I'm definitely inspired. Like, this is one of my friend's shirts. This is my friend Kate's shirt. She goes by Little Tiger, but
oh, it's hard.
She does a airbrush, and that encouraged me to like cut up some jeans, some jorts, cut some jeans into some jorts and spray paint like a little design I've been working on for a while. But I think just seeing how she takes it is very encouraging. That's one of my heroes, like my idols in real life that I've met. Like she's definitely something that's shown me like you don't need spotlight to project your feelings into how you feel about the world and present it to the world. But yeah.
Have you faced any challenges on your musical journey?
Yeah, I think for me, like, I started out making music on my iPhone because I saw Steve Lacy doing it. Like, I watched the Bare Maximum video. I was like, I love Steve Lacy. And this dude said he started off like this. Let me get this GarageBand. It's free too. Like, I'm a really frugal person, so I started off by just using the most generic Apple loops that came in the GarageBand settings, and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, but it's making sense. But like the more I got into it, I felt like my peers were kind of looking down on the fact that, you know, I wasn't playing everything by hand, but it was like, I also knew like I had my own background in music, like I had the traditional background already, so that was my flex, and that was kind of like that was my shield almost, to be like, you know what, I'm gonna just do whatever I want at the end of the day, because it's like, whether I get all these sounds from here or I plug it in, no one knows the difference really. Like, especially like, even like looking at it before, how I looked at music before, I was like, I never knew the value of a mix or the value of a producer. I just knew the value of an artist, and I didn't even know the value of writing. Like, I just knew music as this one-dimensional thing. So it's like, I think the more I grow into it, I'm learning to appreciate the fact that people that aren't as ingrained in it can still appreciate the fact that, oh, this person flipped this sample, or this person did this with this, or even people appreciating like the small subtleties of my writing. Like, I put a lot of effort into making every bar count. So like, it's very like important for me to like continuously find people that like actually love the small like nuances of it.
How do you feel about the commercialization of art?
I think it's funny. If you don't mind me referencing, I was watching this thing about Frank Ocean, they're basically saying, he was basically asking the question of, does Frank Ocean really care about his fans because of his Homer brand? He was basically saying this is a super unaffordable brand, and his fans are basically like, man, like why would he do this to us? And it's like, well, if you look at it, every time he's gone through any sort of challenge, people would be like, would try to capitalize on it and be like, oh, like his brother, his sibling passing, like people were saying, oh, he's gonna make the best music from that. It's like, no, like first of all, you don't even appreciate the fact that like there's so much sacrifice, like I was saying, there's so much sacrifice that goes into making every bar count. Every double entendre, every triple entendre, every metaphor. It's not just a a sweet nothing. It's real events, it's real things, like real sacrifices that I had to make, real people I had to cut off, real people I had to endure to experience those things and to get to where I am like now, like this quickly. I had to sacrifice a lot more than I was willing to sacrifice before I got into music. But as the journey like started to snowball, it's like what's really worth it is being able to tell my story, and like you said, like to be able to show people like, you know, you may start out inside the box, but you can really take it wherever you want to take it. Like that's really important to remember, is you can't get anywhere without the passion. Like you can't get anywhere without really committing yourself to it, committing yourself to the act, you know. So as far as like commercialization, I see there is an important sacrifice to be made. Like you don't want to be surrounded by people that have dedicated themselves to a 9-to-5 grind and haven't pushed themselves to fully get across to what they're passionate about. But at the same time, you have to find the balance to seeing where humble beginnings start and where you can really take it, you know, which is by sponging, whether it's like the greatest artist, whether you meet your favorite artist or even your manager, there's always like information to be like taken in. So it's about listening to everybody, no matter how much you like them or dislike them, and appreciating the whole experience for what it is.
Has your, you mentioned that you had to cut some people off. Has your musical journey impacted your personal relationships in any way?
Yeah, definitely. Like, there's a bunch of things that have changed about me. Like, I've done a full 180. Like I said, like, I really resonated with what Tyler was doing, because it was like, I came from that grunge, like die hard, like even before I was skating, like I came from that, like projecting all of my insecurities into these distorted versions of reality that they weren't pretty, and it was just me being very hateful and things like that for concepts that I didn't understand. And as I grew to understand them, I had to watch literally like my old self deter into like all my old friends. So it was like, as I'm seeing the spectrum of sexuality, or as I'm seeing the spectrum of spirituality, and as I'm opening myself up to like seeing it as, you know, like maybe there's more to just skin color in this thing. Maybe there's more to just who I date, or what I like put my voice to, what I really speak about, you know. Like some people hide behind politics, some people hide behind like professional politics, some people hide behind street politics and all that. But at the end of the day, it's like, I've always been trying to carve out my most authentic self, you know, like, and that's by testing the waters with everything, dipping my hand in everything to see how much I like it, how much I want to experiment. That comes with a lot of sacrifice. That comes with a lot of people that you love judging you and leaving you where you're at to go trail off into their path, which in hindsight, it's like they're not doing anything wrong by not accepting that, because at the end of the day, the world is your reflection, you know, like you see it for how you want to see it. So as much as I could hate on the same people that I had to cut off, I could be like, they got me from point A to point B. They got me to a part of my journey, and I can appreciate them for that from that time. But I could also use cutting them off as motivation to be like, all right, I know not to be around those people. I know how to navigate in these environments, and so on and so forth, you know. So yeah, it definitely came with, you know, a lot of sacrifice, a lot of heartbreak, but I don't know, sometimes you could just pick one person out of the crowd and be like, that person was worth it. Like if I had to cut everybody off from here, even if it means like just having that one person or just having my music at the end of the day, or just even having a roof over my head, like, and having the catalog of music, the catalog of experiences, it was definitely worth it, and I would do it all over again.
Earlier, I learned that your parents are from Gambia.
Zambia.
Zambia?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you said Gambia.
Yeah.
Zambia. So how have your Zambian roots kind of affected like your art, if any?
Oh, it's crazy. So, I'll pinpoint this one specific shift, and almost like everything turned around. So, it was around like my junior. It was around the pandemic actually. My senior year of high school in Texas. All of my friends were white, so. And by that point, I was super atheist and things like that. But all my friends were white, but they were white kids going to church and stuff. They were doing drugs, they were smoking weed and things like that. But they were going to church. So I was like, I'm into psychology, I'm into philosophies and things, philosophical things and things like that. So let me go check it out, because I grew up in a bunch of religions, different religions. But like around 5th grade, I was like, I'm pledging allegiance to a God that, like, this is the same God that they used to be like, to defend slavery and things like that. So why am I standing up for these people? Why am I standing up with these people? Like, I did that in 5th grade, like, and like all of those kids looked at me and they were like, what? And I'm like, bro, you guys don't even know what you're talking about. You guys don't really know like what you guys are doing. But funny enough, it came full circle. So senior year, I started going to church with my friends. And they start singing, and it's getting me very emotional, because it's like, it's connecting to me. I'm like, whoa, I didn't know music could really have this effect. So, snowball down the line, I ended up getting into like a Led Zeppelin phase or whatever. By this point, I'm smoking weed heavy, and I'm on the brink of my like psychedelic era or whatever. And I'm just on YouTube in my room, and I find out about this thing called Zamrock, which is when in the 60s, Zambia gained its independence from England. So basically, there was this rule where they had to play. I think they had to like, it was basically a ratio of how much Zambian music they had to play on the radio, because there was an influx of English music coming in. So they had all this Led Zeppelin playing. So what the Zambians did, all the punk Zambians at the time that were trying to rebel against like so much of the suppression of the time, they started making their own version of Zambian psychedelic rock. And I found that out like during this like almost as I was going through the same thing, like identically, like 50, 60 years later on. I just found it sitting in my room in Texas, like, and I'm like, whoa, like, I didn't even know this existed. Like, I didn't know there was this type of culture in African music. Nevertheless, I didn't know there was this type of culture in my music. And because I never had pride over being Zambian. I always had to lie about where I was from or where my parents were from, because I would get bullied by kids that looked exactly like me for being African, like African booty scratching, all these like silly, like goofy, like things from kids that are like not even a shade lighter than me. I'm like, what is going on? So I just had like a lot of self-hatred up until that point. But I think finding that out helped me, like, I guess, like, gain that muscle and gain that, like, pride about myself to be like, you know what, I think there's something special about this. I think there's something special about me and where I'm from, and I think I need to vocalize that a lot more. So yeah, I think over time, like, just Zambia and like, even just one like super crazy fun fact is on my 10th birthday, Zambia was playing in the Cup of Nations final, and they actually won against Ivory Coast in a penalty shootout on my birthday. So that's just always been something that I saw as special as well, like that little synchronicity. But yeah, I never had that much pride in being Zambian, but now I'm very much like ingrained in it, and being a part of my image and what I present.
What are your thoughts on fame?
Fame, I think it's easy to get lost in the sauce, definitely. Like, I think even at where I am, I've always seen myself getting lost in the sauce at times where I'm like, oh, I need to reel myself back in. I need to humble myself and things like that. And I think it's also important to have, though, because it's like, you could do a lot with it. Like, you don't have to just be the brand ambassador for this or this. You could be a lot more than what they tell you could be. Like I was saying earlier, like, yeah, I'm passionate about music, but I also really want to make furniture one day. I also really want to duck off one day and be in a France farm with like my wife or whatever, or my partner, and have a goat farm, a pygmy goat farm specifically, like those little tiny goats that don't grow, like, or like just be self-sufficient in the backwoods and stuff like that. Like, I feel like fame could easily get you to that point, but there's also a lot of sacrifice you can make behind the scenes to get to that point as well. So you can either see it as a fast track. There's so many ways to view it, but I think like it's something that I would like to achieve, but there's also parts of it that I resent. So I think right now I'm just kind of trying to balance what I could do with even just what I have right now, and saying how I could train that into being something bigger down the line.
How important is using what you have now?
It's very important. Like, it's the one thing my mom man, my mom came here by herself, like, and then her papers expired, so she was raising me by herself in Sandy Springs, basically, with no papers. We were getting evicted from place to place every 6 months. So seeing her hustle, like how she finessed, like, you could go on Instagram and see all these scammers doing this and this and this, but like, I really saw my mom like hustle and sacrifice a lot more than half these people could even like understand. So it's like, she taught me firsthand, like, you can't be anything other than grateful for what you do have, because you're gonna end up missing the biggest opportunity trying to beg for something that you think is bigger, but at the end of the day, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. So it's really important to stick with your plan and your vision. Like you were saying, like, you gotta see the vision all the way through. Like, I appreciate that sort of mindset, because, you know, it's like I said, it's easy to get lost in the sauce. It's easy to get lost in like a lot of the sacrifice, a lot of the friends I've lost have came from, they saw potential in me for the short term, like they kind of used me as like an accessory, like the Gucci bag friend. And it's like, no, bro, like, I'm really invested in what I'm trying to do, bro. And if you're not trying to take it that far, then, you know, I don't mind losing you along the way. It's gonna hurt, like, losing you, but it is what it is. Like, I saw my mom lose a lot more. I saw my mom had to sacrifice a lot of pride, you know, like, and I had to watch it firsthand. Like, my mom loves me so much. Like, my mom loves my little brother so much. So seeing how much she's put up with just so we have food on the table, or even how much she's put up with, like, with what I've put her through, not always being as grateful as I could be for what she has done for me, you know, it's helped me really appreciate the small subtleties and what I do have, working with what I can.
And, you know, I personally think that you've done a lot with what you have. We talked about that offline, about me feeling like you were gonna blow up, but we won't talk more about that. But so for someone watching this who wants to make a song, or who wants to be able to produce their own music, or who wants to just be able to like live freely in who they are, what advice would you have for them?
The biggest thing, bro, don't be afraid to just be like, don't be afraid to just jump straight into it. You gotta make that leap of faith. You gotta really you gotta dive in so hardcore and not be afraid of the sacrifices. They say that, or so something they say about a spiritual journey is you're gonna lose all your friends and family. No, you're gonna lose your sense of self and your comfort within yourself. And that way you're gonna break into a shell of yourself that you didn't even know was there But once you get there, you get access to so much, like, I guess, enlightenment or whatever, that helps you understand a lot more than you did before. So, like I was saying, I had to sacrifice those friends, but at the end of the day, I feel like it wouldn't be that hard for me to open back up to them and be like, hey, like, I apologize for what I did on my side. But at the same time, like, I need that reciprocation, you know? And that's where you really lose people, is you understand the fact that not everybody's gonna reciprocate that same feeling, because they didn't sacrifice the same amount of self that you had to. They didn't risk losing everybody in their life just to make that one small point. But sometimes it's about, like, standing on your grounds, and, like, you could be, like, everybody says, like, yo, you're super nice. Like, within the first 2 weeks of meeting me, everybody's like, oh, you're super nice. But when I'm, like, really passionate about what I'm talking about, like, I'm so cutthroat about it. Like, it doesn't matter what it is. Like, I'm really gonna ingrain it because I know what I'm talking about. I've put, like, a lot of, like, effort into, like, at least thinking I know what I'm talking about. Like you were saying, it's just about confidence to an extent. Like, we don't really know what's going on, but I do have an intuition. I do have my mom's sayings. I do have my dad's sayings. I have had these crazy synchronicities where I'm like, you know what? Maybe I do know what I'm talking about, or at least maybe I'm on the right path to knowing what I'm talking about. And it's like, you know, I think it's just about diving head first. Allowing yourself to be fearful, allowing yourself to be scared, knowing your emotions, getting so caught up in your emotions that you're like, damn, should I have done it this way? Should I have, like, just being really caught up in yourself. Especially, like, man, if you don't know about solipsism is one of the greatest concepts I've learned about. It's basically like surrounding yourself in a world that is your creation, and that comes with a lot of sacrifice, but it comes with a lot of rewards as well. And when you get to the other side of that, it's like, man, maybe this was really worth it, you know? Like, but, like, I always look at artists like Mac Miller or Frank Ocean, saying where they came from, where they started off, and I'm like, you know what, bro? I can't be that far off, like, because, like, a lot of the things they're saying, like, really resonate with my heart, like, my soul. Like, I may be doing, like, a lot of dumb things in the process of it, but I feel like I'm sponging a lot of good things in the process as well. So it's about just sacrifice, you know. But I don't know how else. I feel like there's a better word than sacrifice, like letting your passion guide you. I don't know. But it does come with a lot of sacrifice. You got to be willing to put it all. You got to be. It's all or nothing, you know. You can't be half into it. You can't be half-hearted. You got to fully commit.
Do you have any projects out now or upcoming projects that you want to talk about?
We could talk about Paris Accord.
All right.
So the concept of that was just like, my acid phase was a really big thing for me, because right before my acid breakthrough where I went through ego death and stuff like that, my first acid trip, it wasn't like there was no rules to how I got there. Like, I don't even know what motivated me, but there was a shift before I even did that where I was like, I need to change something. Like, I need to be a better person to attract the things that I want. Like, something just within me told me, like, I need to change. And I think acid or psychedelics in general it was really a catalyst for that change. And when I did psychedelics, it had me in a loop, like a loop of reality, because I'm like, not even a loop of reality, a loop that was really visible and within my head, like, and it was like, I was constantly going through the same cycle of emotions, but I didn't understand any of it, because it was almost like I had just gained consciousness within within the pandemic. I had just gained consciousness of who I really was, or what I really want to be, you know? Like, I never knew there was any value in the world. I started exploring these psychedelics and things like that, and these other worldly concepts and things. But Paris Accord is basically me tackling the idea of, you know, like how cycles work. The cover is the picture of the divine feminine and masculine together. It's that famous picture where they're like, they're both spread out, but one's behind the other. And I think finding the balance of the divine feminine and masculine for me has been really important in how I express my emotions and how patient I am, but also how I tackle certain obstacles up front and how aggressive I am when I'm tackling them head on. And I think throughout the project, it's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about love. I'm talking about losing friends. I'm talking about the sacrifices that I did have to make. I was very hard-headed when I started making music. I genuinely thought my first project, it's gonna be, I literally was in almost a psychosis of I know this is gonna work. I'm gonna be an overnight success. I swore to myself because everything was aligning that way through my eyes. It looked that way to me. And when I dropped it, it was whoa, I'm going through all of this, and I've been so caught up in my world that I didn't open the veil all the way. I didn't see, maybe as much as I think I know it all right now, maybe this is just me scratching the surface of it. And I think that in hindsight is very fulfilling because some days I'll just be sitting around, I'm damn bro, I can't find any YouTube videos to watch, bro. I can't find a beat to make. I can't find any purpose in anything. So it's when I think about just scratching the surface of my ideologies and the people I've met, the love I've made so far, the music I've made, the art I've made, I think I look at Paris Accord as almost my whole life, but encapsulated into this one moment, almost like a precursor to, or a table of contents to the rest of my life, But yeah, I think that project will always mean something to me, especially because the title is a double entendre, so it's Paris Accord, because I'm very into the idea of telepathy, telepathy, and the collective conscience. But like I said, I'm very into the idea of having material success in a place like Paris Paris Accord, the Paris Accord. So I think I've definitely had to make and find a route and a balance for me to project my ideas, my otherworldly ideas, but also make the sacrifice of getting the money to be able to put myself on a platform, because a big thing I lived on for a while was being able to manifest all my dreams for free, being able to really dig out a route of passion, get that out of the mud, because I've seen where money, I've seen, the song by Frank Ocean, Super Rich Kids, I've seen that side of stuff, but I also saw my mom's sacrifice. So it's I've really been blessed to see the balance of how I can navigate it and how I can show people, yeah, I may have came from this background. Every time I tell people, oh, I'm from Sandy Springs, they're oh, so you had it nice. I'm nah, it was pretty bad. We were eating syrup sandwiches. Yeah, I lived in a nice place. I'm grateful that I had the education, but there's definitely, it wasn't beautiful. It's not as beautiful as it sounds, Even being in Texas when, Frisco, Texas is supposed to be the best city in America, apparently. Mm-hmm. But living there, I had to sacrifice a lot of the image that I had built up being free in a place as liberated as Atlanta, because Frisco, Texas is where all the Asian parents, all the African parents have gone once they've made that sacrifice for their kids to be able to explore within the corporate realms, within the medical realms, not within the artistic realms. So I definitely had to dim out that side of myself, but I think fighting for what I believe in on both sides of the fence definitely helped me find a lot more of who I am, and it's allowing me to project that more on a grounded basis, because it's a lot easier to be it's a lot easier to be in your own world and have your own world, but being able to bring your own world out in front of everybody and showing people yes, this is real, what I'm talking about really be it'd be it'd be sounding magical, but it'd be here, it'd be right in front of you, you know. So I think that's something I really believe in, and something that like I really want to show people.